Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 374, HUGG-A-Meeple Con.
Welcome, citizens of Meeple Nation. For the next 30 minutes, sit back and enjoy.
Meeple Nation is sponsored by GameToppersLLC.com.
Yes.
I'm sure they're awesome.
They are awesome. We all need one.
Every home should have a game topper.
Definitely, yeah.
GameToppersLLC.com. Go check them out. Look at all the different toppers, several different sizes. The Moriarty, Watsons, the Mycrofts. You've got the Holmes. Anything that you could possibly want. They're also got some amazing new covers. They've got a lot of new material that just finished in their Kickstarter. I believe you can still late pledge. So go check that out. Check out the new amazing mats, the dining cover, the legs. Check them out. Check out their Kickstarter late pledge.
Hold on. Logan didn't mute his phone.
I don't need any more pressure, Logan.
How do you guys edit this?
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
There's a lot of
The
editing.
unedited one, though, might be gold.
That's true.
My favorite was the one where, I'm Andy Holiday.
Okay, we have games to get to. Come on,
Yeah,
man.
okay.
We can do this.
Here at HUGG-A-Meeple Con, we've got 3 separate game toppers set up, and it's amazing. It's beautiful. And I hear one of our friends from HUGG recently got a new mat.
Yes, it fits my dining room table and it's beautiful. Claudine likes to sit by the fish. Well, actually, the last time we played with Julie and Claudine and Linda and I, we all sat by where our meeples looked the nicest on it.
Color coordinated your
Very
placement.
nice.
That sounds like something totally up Dave's alley.
Totally, absolutely. How does it work on your table? Are you pleased with...
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, I love it. Every time I have to take it off and start dinner or something, I'm really sad. I just want to have games on it.
That's why you just need to replace your dining table with the new topper.
And it becomes a table.
But then it would be the same thing. It's still covered and she's still sad.
That's true. I'd still have to take it off. Well, I should have a game room, so.
Tons of good stuff. Go check them out. GameToppersLLC.com.
Yay!
They're awesome. Woo!
We are the hosts of Meeple Nation, and we're joined by our friends from HUGG. I'm Logan Howard.
I'm Nathan Howard. I'm Andy Holiday.
I'm Dave Holiday.
And we have with us...
Sarah DeWitt.
Julie Belaise. Monique. Babcock.
You sound unsure about
Sorry.
that
I don't know why I said my last name. Okay.
It's just Monique like Cher.
Monique. Babcock. Linda Merkley. Claudine Finley.
one. Excellent. We are so excited. We have this weekend planned where we've brought together our 2 groups. We missed SaltCon this year. We usually all meet up at SaltCon. Although SaltCon end of summer is going to happen. We got that to look forward to. Claudine, I think it was you that reached out to me a long time ago.
Yeah. January.
And talked about this. Things got busy and we all kind of forgot about it. And then I can't remember who
Claudine.
It was
Claudine
She's the one that kept it going.
kicked the can down the road further so that we actually got this together. And we kicked around some ideas of where to meet. And Andy was very gracious to allow us all to come into his home. And Sabrina, his wife, is very tolerant of us. And so the holidays already are a big family. So they're kind of used to the crowded house anyways.
And you kind of just took it from there and set everything up. So.
Yeah, the planner and me kind of took charge. I guess I bully these guys into a 10 for 10 list. So I guess I bullied all of you into a HUGG-A-Meeple Con. We're super excited about this. It's going to be 2 days that we're going to game. We're super excited about this. Before we got together, I thought we would talk a little bit of origins about where our 2 groups came from. Start with our group. Way back in 1995, my grandma had just died. And so we had family in town. And my brother, who growing up, he and I would play games quite a bit. And then he got older. Well, he didn't get older. We both got older. But the age gap between he and I kicked in. He wouldn't let me play in his reindeer games anymore. He let me play D&D with him one time. Killed my guy within 10 minutes. I cried. He never let me play games with him anymore. Then this Decipher Star Wars card game came out. He and I both had an affinity for Star Wars. And so that kind of brought us together. So he lives in Boulder, Colorado. At my grandma's funeral, we came together. We went to a Star Wars card tournament. It was run by Brent Mayer, who later became one of our core group and one of our early podcast hosts. But he was running this game tournament. Afterwards, he reached out to me and said, hey, you want to meet up to play cards? I don't know this guy. I'm all nervous. I'm like, man, I'm not going to have this strange guy come into my house. And then he's like, and I got this other guy he's been talking to too. And so I'm like, all right, now I got 2 strange people coming into my house. We met at a coffee shop. We met with myself, Brent Mayer, and Corey DeCaria. So we started playing Star Wars. We got to a point where that became a weekly thing. That group kind of expanded a little bit. We met a guy at a toy store, invited him, Dennis Holiday. Then as that group expanded, Corey's brother, Ryan, who later became a podcast host, joined the group. Dave joined the group. We invited Logan, who was my young, annoying nephew. I mean, he was like 14 at the time. And
Very annoying.
That was nice of him.
Very tolerant.
quickly, this group grew till we were like 15 people. And then we went to Denver to play in a card tournament. Ryan had introduced our group to Settlers of Catan. We went to Denver. I stayed at my brother's house. Everybody else stayed in a hotel, and they just like played Settlers time and time again. Then quickly, our Star Wars night became into a game night, quickly expanded our gaming library, and we were meeting weekly. And so we've been doing this for close to 25 years now.
It's awesome. And it's crazy. So the switch from the card games to board games, that happened before I got. I'm kind of glad it did, because I never really got into the card games a whole lot. So I don't know if I would have fallen in love so quickly like I did with the board games. But for me, like you said, Dennis was there. He'd been there for a while, and I knew he was going to game night after I got home from my mission. I got married pretty shortly after that. At some point early on there, I was over talking to Dennis, and he invited me, hey, do you want to come to game night with me? And I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. Why not, right? My wife sent me. She's like, yeah. So I went, and I don't remember what we played that night, but my mind was blown. All these cool games that were different. Because for me, I had no exposure to anything other than the old school Monopoly, Risk, Axis and Allies, and a few card games. So for me, when I went there and I was exposed to all these other games, I was just like, oh my goodness, there's this whole world that I didn't know existed. And it was awesome.
Kind of where our group came from. Let's turn the tables here, and who's the originator of...
Julie's the She should probably...
Well, I guess we should hit on that. Mostly like us, like Dave was implying that Dave's wife sent him away. None of our wives play. Yeah. I would never consider my wife a gamer. My wife will play games, but I would never consider my wife a gamer. A gamer I would consider as somebody who goes to the store, looks for a game, buys a game, is excited about playing it. Not necessarily somebody who's like, oh, you got a game, sure, let's play it.
Yeah.
That's my personal definition. Is that the exact definition?
I like that definition.
Yeah.
Although my
I don't think any of our husbands would ever go to a game store.
Ren goes to game stores to buy games for me, and he asks you guys' advice. So my
husband that's different, though.
That's for presents for me.
Yeah, that still would not classify him as a gamer in my eyes.
Well, and honestly, for me, like before we got in the game group or anything, Chad brought home a copy of Settlers, and he's like, this is supposed to be really fun.
Oh, wow.
But again, no.
The opposite side of the coin, we were a group of ladies that your husbands would all be considered non-gamers. I would consider them non-gamers. And so you got together. Julie, you started this.
Yeah, my family, we always played games growing up, the typical big box games. And in 2001, last month, it's my 20-year reunion of good games. We were in Hawaii, and my brother had been playing Settlers of Catan with his law school friends quite a bit. He introduced us to it. I loved it. He bought me another game, and it just kind of went from there. My primary gamer in the beginning was my daughter, Monique, who's here. She played with me quite a bit, and then she became a teenager that had other plans. So as teenagers do, they don't think their mom's quite as cool anymore. So luckily she's come full circle and come back to gaming. Claudine was wanting a game for her husband for a birthday gift, and I suggested Settlers of Catan because it was a good place to start. She got the game, and
it sat in the closet for 2 years or something. And because we played backgammon, card games, all the Monopoly, Payday.
You have a very gaming family.
We have a very gaming family. But you look at the box and you pick up the rules and go, I don't know how this works. And to digest a rules when you haven't played them. And so she invited us over for dinner one night, me and my husband, and mind blown. I was just like, oh, this is the best game ever. Because it was so interesting. You make decisions that matter, and it's got trading and blocking. And then I picked up the Settler ball and ran with it because she was kind of done with Settlers at that point. Played it a while.
Yeah, so she started playing with other friends. And I said, a couple friends, and I said, there's a whole bunch of other games out there. And I had visited a couple of game stores before going online, just in Salt Lake. Walk in sometimes as a woman, it's like, oh, what are you looking for? And it's still that way. Went in and picked up and started looking at Pandemic Season 0 and see if I could see anything on the outside of the box the other day. And the person's like, oh, have you ever played a Pandemic game? Well, yes, I have. I noticed that 0 just came out, so I was just taking a look at it. And then I kind of go, oh, okay, I know that you know something about games. And it's probably that way for everyone. They walk into a game store and they're wondering what it's about. So I started playing games quite a bit with Claudine, and then we got Sarah on board.
Well, I moved to Harriman, immediately met these guys, and they're like, hey, do you want to start playing games? And I'm like, sure, because, you know, I'm always up for girls anything. And they were playing games that looked really terrible on the cover. Like, they brought Power Grid out once, and I was like, not playing that. But then that became one of my favorite games. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. Pretty much every game, even to this day, like, I never try new games. I wait till they show me a game because I don't like reading directions. And then I'm like, oh, this is a great game. We would always play once or twice a week.
Yeah, it's during the day.
Yeah, and then I ended up getting a job. My sister Linda owned a Montessori school, and I got a job there, and I started not being able to play, so I'm like, oh, I'm going to miss you guys when I can't play, so let's once a month do it. And then I invited my 2 sisters because I had been playing with Linda over the years, different games, and we invited Linda Smith, although she didn't play for quite a while.
Yeah, and she's like, she would come to game night and say, I'm just going to watch. And then she
talk
said
to
you
you
guys would get super boring towards the end of the game because the game would get really intense.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to talk. We were into the game. And she's like, you guys are really boring. I'm going home. But she finally got into it.
And Julie and Claudine are so good at, let's play a new game. Because I would just play the same 50 games I have. Well, probably 20. I have a lot of games in my closet, but I probably only play like 20 of them regularly. So they're really good about getting everybody out of comfort zone and playing. And now we have a group of, well, we used to have about 16. I think it's dwindled to about 12 because COVID, people have stopped playing and things. And
we had a couple of people move away. We were at a point where
it was
people kind of knew who we were, showed up at SaltCon with our shirts, and so they would ask us. Because we play in each other's homes, and we kind of have a way of trading off homes and trading off who's in charge of the food and all these things. It made it difficult because we don't have a really big space to be able to game. So we had people asking to join, or I have a sister-in-law or a sister or my friend or my wife wants to join your group. Is that okay? And we kind of at some point had to say no because we just didn't have the room. The church buildings around our area, you've got to be out by 10, and they're very strict about that. We don't always end by 10. So we're stuck to each other's homes. Sometimes there are a few of us that get together during the week and play once or twice during the daytime because our children are older, and we started when our kids were in school, and that was a way to get together. But our bigger HUG group, we got together once a month, and then we had a smaller group that was also once a month. So we had a couple of nights a month, and then once or twice a week during the day. So we were gaming a lot until COVID, and then that kind of shut down. But now that our group is getting smaller, we're ready to bring on some new people. Our philosophy, at least for me anyway, I think it's easier to have fun people and teach them how to play games than it is to find gamers and teach them to be fun. That's
very true.
Because we've had a couple of mishaps in our group. We brought in some friends that they thought they were there for social reasons. And yeah, we're there to socialize. Yeah. But our main goal is to play games. So I think they thought it was maybe like your typical ladies book group where you talk about the book group for a few minutes and then you move on. And Sarah and I were actually in a book group for a while. I think reading is really solitary, where games, you want to be with people and do things. So book group is nice. It's fun.
But we choose a game group.
Yeah, we would always choose a game group. So we said, you know what, we'd rather game another night a week than we would continue this book group that we had been in for, 10 or 12 years.
Yeah.
So there's where our priorities lie. I think a lot of ladies like to go out to lunch, or they like to go shopping together. And if we're going to shop, we want to shop for games.
Yeah, that's true.
So we may be an anomaly. People are always wondering how to get their husbands into games, or wives into games. We're wondering how to get our husbands into games. And they do tolerate. We do have some couples games nights, and we concentrate on the party games, and that's fun. They act like they're having fun, right?
Yeah. I think they have fun because they like each other. The husbands like each other and stuff, so that's good. I don't know. But I do like to go out to lunch and bring the game and put it on the table. The waiter's always like, what is that? What are you guys doing? And these guys are like, let's just go to somebody's house so we get less interruptions. But, I like being the center of attention. So, and with Linda, you guys introduced me to Blue Moon City. I remember we were out at a game store and you're like, this is a good game. And I took it home and I think you taught me how to play it. One of you guys, Claudine or Julie. It was a great game. And I started showing it to Linda, and we just kept playing and playing. Like, we'd go on family trips, Linda and I would play. And so we had so much fun. And our sister Debbie plays too, but at first she had little kids and she was like, the eyes glaze over when you bring a new game out. That's what she used to. Well, I probably did it with you guys too.
Well, and even Linda Smith, we remember her aha moment from going from that, I just want to watch you guys play. We were playing Last Will, and all of a sudden she goes, you guys, this is so fun. This game is so fun. You guys, this is a fun game. And she just kept saying that. You guys, this is a fun game. And we're like,
I'm loving this game. We know.
And where were we playing?
At the rec center.
We were at the rec center waiting for our kids swimming, and we're like, come on, Linda, play a game.
And then we knew we had her. If you just teach people,
you get the bug.
If it's not just rolling and moving and picking up a card, you make decisions that are meaningful, and you try to be the most efficient, or you just try to, what am I going to do next? You're planning out things. So it's so much more than what people, but if you can get them and you can get the game that works for them, then you've got it.
That's true.
Yeah, and with such a wide breadth of games that are out there, there is really a game for everyone.
Yeah.
But
or 50.
Exactly. But there's that roadblock that everybody
Yeah.
goes to, and Logan loves to bring up when you talk about board games. Oh, like Monopoly. A lot of people have sour memories with Monopoly.
We're sorry.
Or
I hate
sorry.
that game. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just like my experience Nate's talking about, getting time off for SaltCon. I would go talk to my project manager, be like, oh, I need these days off. He'd be like, oh, why? For a board game convention? Like Monopoly? He
Yeah.
thinks in his mind that I just sit all day and play Monopoly, and I'm like, no, Monopoly sucks. There's so many better board games out there. But it's because they've only been exposed to those ones, and they haven't been exposed to something better. You were saying earlier, Julie.
And the whole game snob thing that you were talking about, Linda. I feel like you say you're a board gamer, and they're like, oh, I am too. And I'm like, oh, what games do you like? Monopoly and Sorry. And I'm like, okay. And you don't want to say, well, I have a world of games. But I usually do say there's a lot more out there too.
I think the biggest hurdle is getting people through the instructions and the rules, because that's when you get the glaze, and you just say, I promise it's not as complicated as it sounds. We just gotta start playing.
That's actually what I love so much currently, is that when new games are being developed, they have quick videos. Watch this 5-minute YouTube video. You get most of the rules. Love that so much, because you're so much quicker just to get to the table and figure it out.
Plus, there's certain games that are gateway games. It's a game that's
Like
simple
Catan.
enough, like Settlers is a perfect example of that, a gateway game. It's simple enough that you're not going to be completely overwhelmed with the rules, but it's something completely different from what people who aren't gamers see as a game. Monopoly or Sorry.
Yeah,
There's-
not that complicated.
Exactly. And there's a lot of gateway games out there that fall into that category, but I think that get someone into gaming, they have to have that gateway game.
And Settlers is fun. There's a
It is.
reason it started a whole revolution.
Yeah.
Right.
It is fun.
We didn't play it for years, and then we played it recently, right? Didn't we play it recently? It seems like we played it in the last year, and I
I
was
don't
like,
know. Linda's never played it. Still.
oh, I
we were
forgot
already
how fun
past
this is.
that. And that's sometimes the hard thing about, we love our group how it is now, bringing on new people. Julie was talking about, we try to find fun people, but we're kind of content with our group as it is, because you bring someone on and you kind of have to backpedal a little bit, and you can overwhelm someone with the games that we play now. And so we're pretty happy with our group now. I mean, we're happy to have more people. Sarah just had another game night introducing new gamers, and they played different games than what we would have played had we been together. So
So we played Azul and Alhambra. I love those games, but they're not like thinker games.
Going back to Andy's point, they'd be more of those gateway games, because they're simple to teach, simple to grasp,
Yeah.
but yet there's strategy and your decisions matter. All of that matters into a game, which still, Claudine was mentioning, opens eyes to this whole new world.
Right. Well, and we've been so lucky with Julie and Claudine, and Linda likes to too, and probably you do. I don't. We'll find new games. Monique probably does too, because you're your mother's daughter. Reading a book of instructions and figuring it out and setting it out on your table, that's a big job, and these guys are willing to do it, and I've always really appreciated it.
And they're amazing at explaining games.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
you
a-
are too, Lynn.
Julie.
That's
Well,
a
it's like
great-
a game to figure it out. That's like more the puzzle part, where you just figuring it out. And then teaching it's a whole different.
The fun part is learning it from someone who's teaching.
Yeah, totally. You know, the rules are an interesting thing. You talk about you don't like to read the rules. A lot of people get the glazed look when the rules are being explained and read. Nathan doesn't like to explain all of the rules.
When you get to be my age, I've forgotten more than you know.
The Andy Poops doesn't like to follow the rules.
Oh,
So, I mean, there's...
It's just about asking good questions, Dave.
There's a reason there are rules,
No,
people.
there's
a reason.
I could have made a better game, so I think we should change it.
She's like,
More
let's
money,
just start
more
with $1
money.
million. No, because if we all start with $1 million, it doesn't make $1 million worth anything.
I like a lot of resources
So does Dave.
That's why he sits next to the resources.
Yeah.
for free.
That's what Dave does too. Every game we play, all of a sudden we look over and Dave's got this huge pile of resources. Where did you get all those?
I'm a hoarder.
These two people said that they want to start playing games, and that's so great, but then they're overwhelmed with Azul. Sometimes it's a little hard. After years of gaming, you do get to a point where you're just a little bit more, your eyes don't glaze over when a new game comes out. Julie just taught us Underwater Cities.
We just
And
played that the
I
other
love
day.
that game. That is so much
That's
fun.
great.
I bought it right after. Just games like that, they're so much fun. There's just so many out there. Like, sometimes you're just looking in your game closet and you're like, oh my gosh, what should we play?
Sarah, you said you had a closet full of games.
Yeah.
How many games would you say you have?
Probably like 150.
Nice. Julie, how many would you...
I try to stick to 250.
What do you mean you try to stick?
Because I'm trying not to buy as many games. In the beginning, I was the one that was buying all the games. I have transferred that crown over to Claudine. So a lot of my games are actually the older games. I do get some new games.
And Julie's husband built the coolest thing in their basement around the ceiling for all their games. It's awesome.
That's cool.
Nice.
using the space that's above the windows, just
Yes.
putting a shelf all the way around.
So instead of crown molding, you got game molding.
Yeah.
And when you
And
walk
it's
down,
way more beautiful than crown molding.
I
I
so
stand
fun.
there and go, oh,
I know.
this is so beautiful.
you walk in the room and you're like, I feel fun already. Like, fun is coming.
Yeah. And we have had someone join our group that was a gamer, and we had the opposite thing happen. She was really into the games, but she was not a fun person to play games with. So finding the perfect game group is just a gem when you can get the right group of people together.
We talked earlier about COVID, how that affected our gaming group. For a while, we went all digital, and well, Dave and I went digital because
I'm not a
Logan's
big digital board game type person. If I'm going to sit in front of my computer and play a game, I'll play a video game.
3 of us tried, where they email you and it's your turn, and it would just take forever. It was not fun. I like to manipulate and touch the pieces. And
I like
people
it to
talk.
be like this. Like, you're just
And
like,
then we tried to get the Among Us to happen. But
oh, yeah.
then it just kind of fizzled out. So yeah, we're more just in person.
So
Yeah.
have you tried Board Game Arena or...
I've done a lot of Board Game Arena, which is really fun. Then I don't actually feel bad, too, if I, do really ruthless moves. Because with these guys, I do kind of feel like, sorry, I know that's what you just said you wanted to do, but I'm doing it now.
You're so much nicer than me. Julie will be like, why did you make that move? And I'm like, because I felt like it.
We get over it after the game
I
is
know,
over.
we
So
know.
I actually do really enjoy that. And I think if you're in a situation where you're not around people you can play games with, Board Game Arena is super fun.
And they've come out with so many new games on there. Dave and I just started a game of Lost Runes of Arnak on Board Game Arena, which is a fairly brand new game. Beyond the Sun is another newer game
They
that's
have good
available.
ones. They've really got some good games, and they have quite a few.
Julie
Yeah.
has that.
We were talking about that beforehand. When we were talking about getting together, I mentioned that Julie had offered that game up. And that's one of the games that I have been reading the rules on. And when I read the rules, it's a long process.
Like maybe a year.
Maybe.
Sometimes. Yeah.
It feels like it anyway.
I was like, oh, yes, Julie's got the game. She knows how to play it. Sweet. I can put the rules away and wait to learn it that way. So,
I never buy a game new. Like, I always buy one that I've played with these guys. Linda and my other sister gave me a game for my birthday. It's called Nova Luna. That's fun.
Yeah.
But they
That's a good
had
one.
researched
That is a really
Just
good game.
recently
It's a
talked
fun
about
one.
that.
We
It-
played that,
yeah.
yeah.
It's a really weird game to describe, but yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
we
a lot
discovered
like
that.
Patchwork.
We all played that, and it was fun. I'm kind of like, oh, I like this, I'll buy it. But
She usually buys it before we have finished the game.
yeah,
It's on
yeah,
Amazon.
that's true.
We're setting it up.
Check
She's
out.
on her phone. I just ordered it, you guys. Wait until we played it. And then Claudine and I are like, there's so many games out there. Don't buy a game we already have in our game group because our copies
But
won't
I
get
have
played.
to have my own. When things go to pot, we're all going to be in our houses just playing games, probably. So we all
With
have our own
each other.
But then Linda Smith, she doesn't buy very many games, and sometimes you're like, buy some games because it feels like. But she loves games. She just is like, you guys all have them all. Why should I buy them? So
Well, and that's the point I got to, was I knew that you guys were the ones that would play games with me.
That's true.
And buying a game that everybody already has seemed pointless at some point. But yeah, if you want to give me names of games to buy, I'll do it.
Okay. We have a list.
Yeah, it got to the point where, the four of us, as we got together, once Andy joined our group, we started comparing games that I have and games that Andy has. And there was a lot of duplication there, right? Because we'd look at, and how many games are in your collection, Andy?
500.
Oh my gosh.
40? Something like that.
540.
I'm a novice.
I'm almost 700.
Oh my gosh.
That's counting expansions.
You have a nice wife.
Can you make
I
sure
wouldn't
that
go that
this
far.
is in the podcast so I can say to Andy, see, my collection is not that big.
As long as his wife doesn't hear that part, that's fine.
Does she
You know
know
what I
how
always
many you
hear,
have?
though? I always
She
hear,
knows
like,
roughly, yeah.
ask her about her shoe collection or whatever. I can't
That's
ask
true.
my husband about his shoe collection.
My wife doesn't
Collection and
collect
the game
anything.
collection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nothing?
That's with my wife, too. My wife is super frugal. She doesn't spend money on much of anything.
Oh, that.
and then
so
I
you
have
have
this.
700
games.
games.
Yeah.
My husband doesn't buy a lot, but what he does buy is pretty expensive.
Yeah,
And
like
then-
motorcycle.
and motorcycles. And it's a
Oh,
lot of games.
It's a couple games.
My wife doesn't really have any hobby. She likes to read, and
Books cost
but-
money.
Not from the library.
it's exactly right. Yeah, my wife loves to read free books.
Oh, she's a
And-
good woman. But she leaves money up for you to get games.
I'm sure that's not the intention.
You're lucky to have her.
I am very lucky to have her, but I wouldn't say that she leaves money there for me to buy games. That does form a contention from time to time. Logan that was talking about that he wouldn't play online games because gaming is all about the social
I love the
interaction.
social part of it.
Sometimes it's so hard to keep track on those online games of what's going on with everything. Where if I'm in person, I see what people are doing. I can kind of see what Charter's doing on my phone. It was just so hard to follow what everybody else was doing. Such a small screen anyway.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, it's just a screen. Even if I had a giant screen, I'd have to have like an 80-inch TV to be able to fully...
to see what you see when you're...
But then that's not even the interaction of having my friends. That's why I was way happy last year. Nathan and I were the first ones to come back to start playing in person. And
Yeah, we are family.
there's that. It just helps so much to actually have that interaction. Like, I was talking to a guy I'm working with in the warehouse at work right now, and him and his families, they've actually started playing fun board games
Tons
over
of
the
people
past
have
year.
started playing.
Just this
Yeah.
past year,
Because of
because
the-
they were stuck
because
at
of the
home with
pandemic,
COVID,
yeah.
and then they started playing new games. And he was telling me yesterday, I'm kind of tired of it. My kids are asking me what time I get home from work, because I can't remember what game he was saying, like Sea of Thieves, I think it was. But they play from like 3 p.m. when he gets home from work until like 9:30 at night.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Oh, that would be nice.
That would be really nice.
That's so great for a family because that forms memories.
Yes.
I mean, that forms relationships, that forms bonds. I mean, you look at Julie and Monique, that relationship. I look at that same relationship with my daughter, Ashley, and myself. Almost
Yeah.
exact same situation
Yeah.
with Julie. Both my daughters love to play games. They really love Dominion. As a father, I never let my daughters win. I would teach them how to play, point out strategies or anything like that. But I would never allow them to win. They had to earn that victory. And I remember my youngest daughter, Madeline, when she won her first game of Dominion, she was almost standing on the table doing a dance because that victory
I beat you,
really
Dad.
meant something. Yeah. But then that high school age came in and Dad was uncool and games were uncool. Friends were cool. Post-high school, which was actually the SaltCon, she was reluctant. I work at community college, so she was taking classes there. So I had taken the time off, but she still had to go to school. SaltCon was kind of in between my work at our home. We went there, just walking around before she had to go to school. She was just kind of really reluctant about coming back. And we walked around, met up with you guys, cheers, or not cheers, but there was greetings, there was hugs, and there was
There may have been
Well,
there may have been cheers, yeah.
Since we love Nathan, we love Nathan's daughter.
As we're walking around and running into all these acquaintances, Ashley's like, "You're kind of like a celebrity." And I'm like, "No, I just know people." But then she came back. We introduced her to Salem. You guys introduced all of us to Salem. It was like right there.
That was
She
a fun
just
game.
changed, and she loved that weekend. Got excited for the next SaltCon, and she was there for that. I attribute a lot of that to the ladies of HUGG. Brought that bond. Then it wasn't until she met a guy that ruined all that. So,
He doesn't like games. She told me he likes games.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Logan's using air quotes there for the games, but yeah, he does like games. But the games that he likes are quick, simple games, which is fun. I mean, my wife and I were first married. Mastermind was like our go-to game. It's just a simple 2-player game. We had a lot of fun with that.
Haven't you noticed how growing up in a gaming family, I don't know if you've noticed this with your family, it has taught them how to learn and how to think critically. My daughter will bring over friends and she's like, oh, it's so hard to teach these people games because it just takes them so much longer. So just growing up in a gaming family, even though they'll play games when I twist their arm, they'll play games here and there, but they've learned how to learn games and they've learned how to figure things out. And it's just been nice to know that. My son went on a date and he came back and he's like, oh, I got invited over to her sister's house to play games. We have got to teach her some different games. It was horrible because they were playing games that he was like, this isn't a game. It's a very good teaching tool, socialization tool, their friend.
Very much a socialization. Gets them off their phone.
Oh, yeah.
Interpersonal contact, which is huge, right? To be able to communicate with people, and especially the more and more we go into society, maybe getting off topic, less time on our phones and more time face to face, which I guess is why Logan doesn't like online games. But
yeah, when we learned Agricola, I realized, hey, this is like a good life game. What you're saying about critical thinking. Why am I not living my life like I'm trying to play this game? You know what I mean? Because I'm all about just fun, and sometimes you make mistakes in your life because all you're doing is having fun. But in the games, they kind of teach you, do this and then this will happen, consequences. I should live my life like a game. It's actually helpful.
At our school, we had so many games there because we found that they were so beneficial. There's so many critical thinking skills and problem solving that you learn, and just being able to come up with a new solution. Anyway, they're amazing.
yeah, my brother, he's a special needs teacher. He loves to introduce games to his students. And
Yeah. Monique's pretty quiet over there in the corner.
I have nothing to say.
What's your favorite game?
I just barely moved back to Utah this past year. And so before that, my husband was in the Air Force. We were constantly moving every year, sometimes less. And so unlike these people, I didn't really have a game group. And so the only time I ever really gamed was when I came back to Utah to visit family. And trying to form a game group is extremely difficult when people are moving and you're about to move and you're like, oh, I'm on a short time crunch. I'm going to be here for 9 months. You need to start playing some heavier games. And so I tried to form groups, and it kind of be exhausting, just not just always hosting it, but just always sure that they're having fun. Okay, now how do I get them to be a gamer? And we got to kind of like the medium, the gateway games, and it was still fun, game nights, but I never really got a game group. Those listening in a podcast that are like, oh, I just moved, or I'm just in a new situation, or I'm trying to find a game group. And we also were in a small town most of the time. Salt Lake area, for instance, where we live now, is really big. I felt like you could find people, but you just have to keep finding those games that people like, and because there's a game out there for everyone. Just keep trying and trying. You're going to go through different people you might not be compatible with, and you're kind of exhausting, but you'll eventually find some people, and then you'll move, maybe.
We're all like stuck in Harriman forever.
Yeah, so I mean, those, just keep trying, and you'll eventually find your little, some people. But
Did eventually find your pandemic season 1 group to play with.
yeah,
And you finished a whole season.
We finished right before we moved, and just finding people. We had young kids, and maybe they didn't. So then it's like, well, how do we get together? Their wife in my games, or their husband, or it's hard.
Very real. That was one of my biggest things when we moved to Washington from here. That was one of my, next to missing my family, what I thought about was, what am I going to do, right? I'd been going to game night every Thursday for 15 years or whatever it was at that point. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. This is going to be horrible. I'm going to starve to death. Luckily, when I got to Washington, I found another gamer really quickly. He and I started a group, and we found a few others, and that was good. But while you were talking, it made me think, maybe we need to come up with some underground dark web term or whatever. You know how there's like those, how like people like come out of the woodwork for different nefarious things because there's some code word that they all get.
That's where he likes to spend his time on the internet. That's
What about those Facebook frames? Get the frame of such and such happening. You could have something. You could have something.
If you're only going to be in an area a short time, you need to find somebody. Like, maybe we need to start some term or something. So it's like, hey, and then other people will see that and go, you know what?
Yeah. And different levels. Like, are you a party?
Right.
Are you a gateway? Are you into the hard?
Are you poor? That's why we like Meeple Nation. and Nathan in particular at first, because you were fun. It's like you want to play with people who can laugh easily and who aren't throwing the board if they lose. We're all at the point where we just love playing. We want to win, but we love.
We need an algorithm. Put in 5 favorite games, and then it pairs you up.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, like a dating app.
That's a
Swipe. You're a swipe game.
In a small town, you might never find that.
All right.
It's the same thing with dating apps.
So
Yeah, tell us about it.
whatever computer nerd is listening to this right now and just got that brilliant idea,
Please create that.
We want a kickback.
a little love over here.
I have a question. How do you choose what you're going to play for the night on your larger gaming group?
Nathan's in charge.
The 10 by 10?
It's why I like coming to game nights at Andy's house, because I could just stare at the shelf one night and be like, Harry Potter, can we play that? And then we played it for 4 or 5 hours or something. Had a blast.
It's such a fun game.
Nate has his goals and they're great and everything, whatever. But
Could you sound more succinct, please? I'm sitting right here.
I mean, I do like that there's games that are harder to get to the table that we do get because of his goals. But I like being able to, hey, let's try this. We haven't played this in a while. Let's get this to the table. There's a little bit of that back and forth. I just give up October through the end of the year. It's Nathan's game night.
Well, actually, this year, we're doing pretty good.
So I get to November?
Might get to November, because, I think we're done with 6 of my 10 for 10.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Well, Dave only did 1.
There was only one that we did.
Yeah. Finished Star Wars Imperial Assault. We started playing Taverns of Tiefenthal. Hopefully we can get some more of that done.
One of the things that I think has been so nice about our group, too, is that as we've become more comfortable with each other, that happens more. We might just have a night where we just do want to talk, and then we play something that's different or lighter. But then sometimes we do have games that's like, we gotta play this. This is amazing. And because sometimes you just want that.
We really enjoyed this episode, really enjoyed this time, and hopefully we can get to some gaming and have a great weekend. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
We're so
Thanks
Thanks
excited
for
to
the
be here.
invite and for the hospitality.
Until next time.
We'll see you at the game table.